Space Talks with Z is hosted by America's Future Series great friend and advisor, Zaheer Ali. Space Talks with Z provides a forum for thought leaders to share insights and recommendations on how America and its allies can stay at the forefront of exploration, commercialization, and defense of space. Please visit our website to register to see all of Z's content and our many other programs for free at www.americas-fs.org.
Welcome, folks, to the first episode of Space Talks with Z for 2024. Happy New Year. Hope you all had a good holiday season. Today, we have with us Deepak Seth and Rabie Zahri, both experts in AI. They're business leaders, IT leaders. They've done some really interesting things that we're going to jump into in our talk. But briefly, welcome, Deepak. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure. You know, your background both in financial, technology, and consulting is really interesting. Xerox, Accenture, Charles Schwab. It's going to be fun jumping into the business perspective of AI with you. Rabie, thank you again for joining us. Rabie Zahri, CEO of Positon. He has an extensive experience, started out as an engineer, did that for several years, consulting, strategy, many years in corporate development, at companies ranging from Fortune 50 all the way through smaller companies and startups. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And what a start off to the year we've already had. AI is in the news, I think, hourly. Things dropped in 2023 with GPT, but it feels like now we're really hitting the ground running here. So jumping in, let's take a quick look at where we are, what the state of things is really quick. Let's baseline. And particularly as we look at AI and business. I think the question in a lot of people's minds is, where is AI making inroads in business? But what are the risks and challenges of implementation? We're hearing a lot of stuff in the news. How much of it is noise? How much of it is actual stuff that's happening and is going to really make a difference? Maybe we can ask you to jump in first, Deepak.
Hey, first of all, thanks, Zaheer. It's always a wonderful opportunity to speak with you, and I'm glad we are doing that right at the outset of 2024. Yes, you're right. Means AI has been a very, very interesting space for sure over the last year. Generative AI in particular, and that's why this backdrop of mine makes sense. There was a lot of it was a mystery to many over the course of last year, and that's why I started to blog about what I called AI demystified. And I'm sure this conversation will also be one more step in this demystification of AI. As you mentioned, means AI is making inroads in several areas. Traditional AI had already been in industry in a major way, but now with generative AI, there are some specific areas in which it has made great inroads. The first one is around customer service and marketing. Second one is around operations and supply chain. Third is around in the whole media and entertainment space. Then also in finance and banking and healthcare. Means media and entertainment, we all saw it play out when the two major strikes for both the screenwriters and actors guild. One of the key areas of concern for them was around what role generative AI can play. Similarly, in media and journalism, means we see a lot of copywriting and other stuff which is happening using generative AI. In most companies in the customer service space, where there is a human interaction with the customer, and the human needs to refer to a lot of internal policies and documents in order to respond to the customer, a lot of the work can be facilitated by AI. So that's another area where it is playing an important role. Quickly, means you mentioned you had a second part of the question around what the areas of concern around it are. Means the areas of concern stay the same, which had been right from its outset. They are around, first of all, around misinformation and deep fakes. Means companies still need to deal with that. And then the other big concern is around job displacement and bias. And as we go further, I think we'll speak through these, but I'll toss the ball back to you now because I can go on and on.
Oh, fair enough. But really interesting points talking about the marketing. An example of that content and media was a major video game house recently admitted that they're using generative AI and actually replace augmenting or in some cases replacing some of their artists. But let me toss it to you, Rabie. From that business, core enterprise level business perspective, well, what do you see as where we are and
Yeah.
what the risks and challenges are going to be?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on this show. I kind of want to step back a little bit and describe how enterprise kind of looks at AI, because I think there is a general understanding of generative AI that's out there in the public. But if you look at AI as a journey, there are companies that are looking at building their own bespoke models, right? That they have to actually start from scratch and build with the data sets that they have. And those AI models, there's a lot of interest in enterprise level that makes sense to create something that is kind of I don't like to call it a digital transformation. It's actually a next evolution to that aspect. There is also AI that lives within large data centers or AI that lives just outside of that data center, like they call it near edge. And then there's a far edge, which AI that it gets deployed in remote areas like oil rigging or some other remote areas like that. So how do you actually deploy that capability to that extent? So a lot of these problems, depending on the industry and the vertical, are far more interesting to the enterprise level. I think there is a commercial level to the user, like general use cases of like OpenAI as an example, that or a Chat GPT, I should say, where the public can interact with some of these kind of summarization or a little bit of some use cases that we all like everybody's kind of used them at this point. I think there's also the aspect of object detection or imaging, things like that. So if you go to healthcare, there are use cases in that are very bespoke to that vertical, and it brings up issues of data protection, HIPAA, things like that. So those problems are being taken care of. There's frameworks for those AI models that are specific to that industry to allow for sharing insights on a federated in a federated way, so that the data remains in healthcare providers and it's not it's not leaving the custody of that healthcare provider. So I can go on into different verticals where AI can be looked at differently based on the stakeholder that's actually using it. But in general, I think the output that we're seeing right now has to be we're kind of in the middle, if you will, like in the middle of that journey where we're seeing things, but we're also improving on how we actually create that insight in a responsible way. Because the insight that comes out of it, we want to make sure that the data goes in is protected, and enterprise is also playing with that and making sure that all of that stuff is ring fenced. But there's a lot of work that's being done to make that transparent through the open source community and what have you. So there's a lot of aspects here that we can dive into, but we're pretty sure we'll double click on some of this stuff as we go.
So if I may, Zaheer, just a quick point say. So Rabie, you brought up some great stuff. Typically means the interesting part is like AI is operating across a wide continuum, so as to say. On one side, you have the cloud where you have big players deploying capabilities which reside on the cloud, kind of thing, the large language models which are residing on the cloud. You have the Amazon Bedrocks of the world, and similarly from Google and Microsoft and all the players. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have now capabilities coming out which are micro LLMs, which can be embedded within your smartphone or smartwatch. So you have got the cloud and the edge continuum, means that's one play. And then the other play is around the other axis. If you look at it, it is the large models versus the small. So you have the cloud versus edge in terms of the tech stack, and you have got the large LLMs versus micro LLMs on the size of the LLMs. You have more customized LLMs which are targeted or focused for a particular sector per se. So rather than boiling the ocean, you have a specific one focused just on finance or just on healthcare,
Right.
and things like that.
So the narrow, it's that conversation that we had even with machine learning and things like that. You have the large models and you have the narrow models. So that's so you're saying that's happening with LLM. But I want to go back to a couple things you guys said. Um, uh, um, so I think the next question everybody has is, what's next? Some of this stuff has sounded a little bit like low-hanging fruit. Okay, you can throw an LLM to go read a bunch of documents and give you give you a summary. That's great. We can certainly deploy that at scale, but it's a little easy in terms of how you think about where you're going to apply this. But like Rabie, in your background, you deploying working on AI and high performance compute, when we think about AI, is it the same as other IT waves? You mentioned that you don't like to think of this as digital transformation because it's something bigger than that. I think that's really interesting. How do we now think about that, and how do we think about deriving value in the business sense? Is it something we hand over to the IT guys and let them drive it, or do we drive it from the application side?
So for me, if you want to look way into the future, I think there's a couple of things here that are going to be really interesting to watch. One of them is having HPC or high performance compute that support the development of these models go onto a cloud. So just the same way servers went to the cloud, we're going to have that application of HPC onto the cloud, which means it's going to unlock an explosion of experimentation and building these models, because it's super expensive to build the infrastructure to actually train those models, right? So first, you have to have the data set, training, you have to have the right accelerators, chipset, and also having the inference part of that journey. So HPC on the cloud, I think, is going to unlock a lot of that, and you can see a lot of partnerships going on at the moment in the industry. But also, there's another aspect that we need to talk about, which is the use of AI in quantum, right? So as quantum is developing, the use of AI in actually in the simulations or figuring out a way to actually code quantum, right, and develop the algorithms for quantum, which is that's an issue of its own, right, that we're trying to solve for the industry.
Right. Quantum advantage algorithms.
Exactly. So I think there's that continuum that's happening into, like, if we'll talk about that future, I think those probably one of the major things. We don't know. I mean, I probably can't even imagine what opportunities and solutions and things that going to be amazing for humanity as a whole, right? That those two tracks will bring, powered by AI.
So means if I were to continue the same chain of thought, since you brought up the word powered, and there was this whole thing about power which was playing in my head as you were speaking, was so the human brain compared to AI means it does what it does with a very, very limited power consumption. It consumes 25 watts of power is what the human brain does. And so one key area in which AI needs to evolve is becoming more energy efficient, because for what it does right now, it consumes a lot of energy, consumes a lot of resources, So sooner or later down the road, when we talk about way in the future, the efficiency of AI, the resource efficiency of AI needs to improve. And maybe there's an opportunity for leveraging the way the human brain works. Means right now, at some aspect, it is being mimicked, but it is not being mimicked in the terms of the way the neurons actually process the information in the brain, or neural computing, or something like, which actually takes human cells, brain cells, and uses that in building AI capabilities. It seems like out of science fiction right now, but in terms of energy efficiency, the human brain is much, much more efficient, and so there and a lot of redundancy in it. So there may be opportunities to utilize the redundancy in human brains across the entire globe to drive some kind of human augmented AI kind of thing. So that's way far out. I mean, it's even beyond quantum computing. But I thought I'll throw it out there. Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
so that's that we're going kind of looking into pretty far into the future.
Yeah. Now near term,
Bringing but circling back a little bit, right? You know, in 2024, we've started off the year with some interesting news, right? Google cutting some jobs, AI is being cited as part of the reason. We're hearing a lot of that. But there's also the promise that AI is going to create jobs in other ways. How do we see a lot of these applications that people are talking about playing out beyond just automating kind of boring tasks? How is that human machine interface going to be creative? Whereas right now it seems like it's a great cost-cutting measure, and you get a lot of ROI from different basic deployments. But looking forward, how are we going to really use this to the way the internet and e-commerce at first it was like, oh, okay, there's all the destruction that's happening because it's removing communication barriers, so all the people in that chain are necessary. But then it changed, but then the curve kind of changed this concavity, right? And it became this massive creative force over the last 20 years, and it's driven world economies. How does that play out with AI? Jump in.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think that is giving many people sleepless nights. That this question came up in another interview I was in, and I responded in a way which I've heard other people also respond, which is like, AI is not going to take away people's jobs. It is people who know AI who will take away the jobs of, or displace the jobs or tasks of people who don't know AI, which was the same with Excel, which was the same with the internet, with every different thing. There was this interesting report from the World Economic Forum, which had like classified the new roles which are being created by AI in three different buckets. So one they had called the trainers or the builders, the second they called explainers or ambassadors, and the third they called sustainers or AI custodians. Now, if we look at all these three buckets, means the changes which will come about in 2020 in the very near future. When we look at the trainer kind of role, which are the AI builders, it's the stuff which we talked about already, like the cloud versus edge, micro LLMs versus large LLMs. So a lot of technical expertise required to build that kind of stuff. So many roles will be created in that space. A lot of traction will happen in the second bucket, which I talked about, which was the explainers or the AI ambassadors, which are the people who are creating the user interface by which the companies or individuals interact with AI. So that's the space where we are seeing a lot of democratization happening, because AI is making technologies and tools accessible to many more people. AI is emerging as co-pilots. So co-pilots are being created by various companies, given various brand names. GitHub has one, Salesforce has one, Oracle has one. Means everything what we used to do regularly, now we will do in an AI assisted way. So a lot of roles are being created around that, and it is unleashing new kind of creativity, because I'm not a good painter, but now using AI, I can say, okay, this is my idea. Can you create an image with that? And now that image can be used in promoting sales or creating a visualization about the future for somebody else I'm interacting with. So that's another area. And the third one around, I said the sustainers or the AI custodians. I mean, that's an area which is in big play, because these are the people who will create the rules and regulations around the world of AI. So a lot of things happening there around what is responsible AI, what are the ethics of AI. So the roles are emerging in companies like AI ethicist or responsible AI manager, or even in a broader sense, chief AI officer. So I mean, those kinds of roles are emerging. So it's a it's an environment in flux, but exciting times ahead for sure.
Oh, interesting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really great framework
Mm.
to help people understand that builder, user, maintainer,
Mm.
and it's interesting how that branches out into a lot of roles. Rabie, what are you seeing from your side of this? Looking again, that matrixed enterprise view,
Right.
particularly things like corporate development or other functions.
No, I totally agree with the categorization here from Deepak, and I think as it continues, it's going to have uh, AI is going to be uh, that from a buddy system, right? Like if you think of a buddy system, that's your buddy that helps you in whatever function you can think of within a corporation, within an enterprise. But if you fast forward, I do believe that AI is going to unlock a lot of creativity and unlock a lot of entrepreneurship going forward. A lot of folks with ideas that they want to implement. Now that you can think of AI as a workforce across all the work streams that you need to put in place a startup, for example. And as things develop and get more robust, those capabilities are going to get stronger and stronger. If you take this into, for example, with Positon AI, we're looking at automating the M&A process. We use AI responsibly to take care of a lot of use cases that are very like what we call the mundane within the M&A process, stuff that right now, if you look at a lot of the M&A teams, they do about 80, 100 hours a week, and that's no
That's
exaggeration.
rough.
Yeah,
That's
it's
rough.
so AI can help with a lot of the stuff that they don't need to do on a repeatable basis, and also some intelligence that can help with predictive analytics, real time. We're talking about like the other day, I was demoing a DCF model to a colleague of mine, and it was just mind blowing. You can how it was. We're talking about a few seconds, and he was developing a full blown
Yeah,
DCF.
that's nuts.
Yeah,
That's
and you can do
nuts.
sensitivity testing on that and things like that. So, and this is just what I call V1. This is just version one of what we're seeing. And as time goes by, and it's not a linear um, uh, kind of evolution here. It's going to be exponential. So we're going to hit a point where, and a lot of people are waiting for that AGI, but I think it's to be version one. But I think we're already there. We're already seeing flavors of what it can do. But I think the promise for me is the benefits it brings to humanity from all the like healthcare. Like think of all the stuff that complex problems that we need to solve and we're not able to solve today. AI, quantum, all of this stuff is going to bring humanity to a new level, and I cannot fathom or describe because that's $1 million question. Like I can't think of what that looks like, to be honest with you. Like that future is it's going to unlock, and a lot of creativity from humanity is going to come out, and with the help of AI and the infrastructure behind it, I think it's going to unlock a lot of these wonderful solutions and benefits for us all.
So, so looking at that future, right? That there are different ways to think about it, right? People realize now that industry research in many ways is back, right? You think about OpenAI, they've done so, right? GPT did not come from a university, right? When you think about the internet, that came out of DARPA and Berkeley and Stanford and CERN at Geneva, right? It was academic and government. OpenAI is really the opposite completely, right? Initially, if I remember correctly, it was a nonprofit, right? So it's completely in coming from the other angle at this. And now you see they're like mushrooms. They're just, and it rains and they pop up everywhere, right? And that's what the AI startups are doing right now. How do we see this ecosystem evolving? Is it going to be, are the sharks in the water and they're just going to be snapping up all the little fish, the NVIDIAs, the Intels, the Microsofts, the Amazons, or is this going to really create another ecosystem, more similar to the way that the web developed, right? Where you have giants that come out of this development and this startup ecosystem.
Yeah, I can start with that. I think it's I think there's two areas there to look at in terms of value, right? So there's folks that provide services and value, right? That is based on AI. So whatever they provide, it has to have some sort of value and services. And it can be powered by AI. So I think there's that aspect of the
that's kind of one bin.
And then you have the other bin, which is what we call in the industry like folks that are selling the shovels, right? So you got the NVIDIAs and the accelerators and all that, which is important, right? You want that infrastructure in place, the systems that are optimized for all the different types and flavors of AI, like Deepak was explaining earlier, which is the cloud or the data center or the edge or far edge. There's needs and infrastructure for each one of them, and to optimize for the best use to make it actually commercially viable, right? So a lot of folks right now, for example, they can't. To build an AI model, it takes a lot of money, and you can look at a lot of the companies that came out and you see how much they raise.
Yeah.
That's how much it takes to actually build that. So there's that track, and I think if you dive deep into each of the bins, there's different different value that can be extracted in terms of from a financial perspective without diving into the financial metrics there.
So yeah, interestingly, the cost of building an LLM is coming down rapidly. So now newer companies are doing it with much less cost. Another interesting point around this, around your question, is around how the whole paradigm is shifting or needs to shift. It is around till now, because AI has come out, as you were describing, it has come out from the tech world kind of thing. And so a lot of techie involvement in it. And so it is in terms of describing what AI is. So AI is this LLM, it is LVM, it is RAG, it is human in
whatever alphabet soup, right?
Whatever it is, acronyms out there. But it has to move from that, and every technology does that. It moves from being what it is to what it can do. So right now means when you drive in a car, means you are not thinking about the multiple explosions which are happening in a confined space to drive your car forward and all that kind of thing. What you are just interested in, what speed does it drive at? Does it get you from point A to point B kind of thing? So the conversation will shift from the techie side to the business side. And what would happen because of that is there will be a lot of focus on the niche applications which are directly relevant for that particular industry. So right now means a healthcare sector company may only be interested in what is relevant to the healthcare sector rather than the broader Chat GPT kind of thing. And much of what we are thinking about as discrete components or tools of AI, they will become table stakes. They are embedded in whatever we are doing. So we don't think about when we switch on our light bulb in our home or whatever. We are not thinking about how electricity is generated. So it's like similarly means AI will become intrinsic to what humans do, and it will be table stakes. Our kids won't even think about. Means it is something which augments what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. That's interesting. But so then tactically, right? If you think about this tactically, right? You had Microsoft, which was a computer software company. You had Apple, they glommed onto the internet and leveraged it for massive growth and continued growth, right?
Mhm.
Right. They'd been growing double digits. They continued that using the internet. And then you had companies like Amazon, Spotify, and others that were wholly based on the premise of the internet. Without the internet, they just couldn't exist, right? So when will that when do we see that happening? Are we at that point, right? Are there already candidates like, hey, this is an AI company that doesn't exist without AI, but they are developing a complete new, massive enterprise based off of the existence of AI versus now, and Amazon is now in the role of the old Microsoft, where they're the ones who are they're shovel sellers, right? They're that big player that is enabling. Where do we see that? Do we see those companies yet, or are they the ones that are going to be founded in 24, 25, 26 that are going to, create that next drive over the next 10 years?
Means wouldn't and I'm that's a very interesting question. And so isn't an open AI a company like, means whether you call it a company or not, means that's the kind of thing who's built the whole ecosystem kind of thing, and then other players are emerging who will so so maybe, means when I'm thinking about it, maybe it would be something like the whole uh, Amazon created an environment where other startups are building
Right.
their technologies and then deploying it. So Amazon is the host, and the others are playing in that ecosystem and coming out with their own capabilities. So right now, Chat GPT allows people the ability to create your own micro
Right.
Chat GPTs. Now each one of them could be something, a Zaheer GPT, and then Zaheer GPT becomes a big. It resides in that marketplace. The marketplace owner gets a share of the revenues, and Zahir GPT gets the prime share of the revenue. So maybe that's the kind of model which will emerge. And then again, the experts will emerge who will be advising people on
Which one to use?
which one to use, kind of thing. So in that way, means it is like deja vu all over again, kind of thing. The nature of the technology changes, but the way humans interact with it will stay the same, means in terms of making the choices of what to pick. The only thing, I think, one big thing which would change is the speed with which the new variants or the
Mm,
new thing. So means when this thing came about, companies were evaluating Chat GPT versus Bard, and then it became Chat GPT versus Bard versus Claude, then Chat GPT versus Bard versus Claude versus Mistral. Well, then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and now
The names keep coming.
Gemini has come about, and then okay, LLMs plus LVMs, now LLMs plus LVMs plus multimodal. So it becomes much more difficult for the industry participants to decide. But I think they'll follow the classic approach of, okay, let's find a trusted vendor partner, whichever one of the big three, big four, or whatever their appetite or risk appetite is, or means that suit their corporate profile, and they will look at that vendor to provide them all the capabilities which they need. So they may make some sacrifices, because Microsoft may have something which Google doesn't have, and Google may have something which an Amazon doesn't have. But as
Right.
an industry player, you'll have to make those choices, and do the kind of balance and pick out which one you want to go with.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
interesting.
I,
Let's
I,
go, jump in.
I was gonna say I completely agree, and I think what's interesting with the question, there's a lot of startups right now that you can argue they wouldn't be around without AI, right? So I think that's core to what they do, and without it, it's kind of their internet, right? So to your point, and wonderful solutions out there, really amazing value that they add on top, and they use AI in a responsible way. So there's a number of them out there, amazing right now as we speak. And I think this is a trend that will permeate other parts of the market, small medium businesses that like allows them to bring in capability into their businesses, mid market as well, enterprise companies. It's a competitive advantage. If you're not implementing AI within your corporation, you will eventually be left behind in a way, right? So I think there's a lot of capability that you cannot afford not to integrate into your system or into your core capability within any organization. And you look at across all the industries, everybody across all industries exploring how do we bring AI in. So I think eventually we're all companies. AI is going to be in all companies, just much like internet is in all companies today. We can talk about digital transformation, which is essentially taking companies from offline to online, right?
Yeah, that was the early waves.
The early waves. And now we're talking about AI. How do we bring that capability in-house so we can enhance our core competency and capabilities and better value to the customer? Eventually, ultimately that's what AI is for.
Mhm.
How do we bring value to the stakeholders?
And one more thing which I would add to the mix is, like, we talked about the business applications, we talked about the big players building the capabilities, and then the corporates using it. There's another associated sector where there'll be a lot of play, would be like the people who are building the niche tools associated with this ecosystem, or the plumbing related to that. So you're sending the data over to a place, and you're worried about the security related to that, and all that kind of stuff. So right now, the big players are busy in building the models. They may not be paying as much attention to this, like little associated pieces. So there would be players who emerge and come out with those tools, and sooner or later, means like it has happened in the past, they may get acquired by the bigger players, and their capabilities will become part of the bigger ecosystem. Or one of these niche players establishes a strong role for itself as saying, okay, we are the AI data security guys. So means whichever platform you're using, the pipeline, we will make the pipeline secure, kind of thing. So those kind of players will also emerge. Now, whether they stay independent or they get acquired by one of the big players, that thing will keep on happening.
Well, gents, we're coming up on time. This has been really fascinating. I just want to recap a few things that jumped out at me. Deepak, thank you for helping us understand that framework of how AI is going to end up being creative, with the creators, the users, and the sustainers, and rule makers structure. Rabie, I think it was really important to highlight how AI is going to be a co-pilot, like the example you gave with Positon with corporate development. One of the things we like to do here on Space Talks with Z, in the America's Future series, is ask for predictions and recommendations, and feel free to be prescriptive. So I'd really love to just do your top 3 for 2024. Either it could be a mix of this is what you need to do, and this is what is likely to happen. Maybe I could toss it to you first, Deepak.
So yeah, means I'm a big one for structured models kind of thing. So I'll go with the people, process, and technology framework. So on a people side, means if you're as an individual, you need to upskill yourself and stay in touch with whatever is happening in the AI space. Maybe get some AI certifications, figure out a tool, and learn more about it. At least every person would need to be, if not AI expert, at least AI aware. So means that goes across roles. From a process point of view, means it would be companies trying to figure out how to make AI a part of their normal business processes. Because where can AI fit into the mix of what they do? So identifying the use cases and bringing it in. And on the technology side of it, means once again the evaluation of the various technologies which are coming up, and trying to figure out which one is the right one for the corporation. Making sure that it delivers value for the corporation, means rather than it just being a science experiment, it needs to be the one which drives business value for the company and its stakeholders. So a lot of action will happen in that direction. Like, show me the money, means okay, it's not just the nice to do, but like what's the ROI with that particular thing. So people will need to be ready to do that. So yeah, that's my 3 on the people, process, and technology.
People, process, and technology.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. Another interesting framework. Rabie, please bring us home.
Yeah, I think adoption with adoption of enterprise, mid-markets, SMB of AI is going to increase. And I think with that, there needs to be a lot of training on how to actually use it internally from a data security protection standpoint, we'll hear stories. We've heard stories
Mm.
before, but it has to be part of the ecosystem, part of the package, right? So you're not you want to you want companies to adopt early so they're not left behind, but at the same time, you don't want to create additional risk for the company as internal and external, right? So I think that aspect, and to what Deepak mentioned, it's all about the ROI, right? At the end of the day, you want to make sure that the companies are going to look at this where it actually adds value, and experiment with this. And I would like to predict as much as I can, but I think a lot of what we're going to find out in 2024 is a lot of experimentation. Because, I mean, there are companies that are leading and integrating AI, but I mean, if you look at the whole market, they're still adopting, and we're still in that phase of ramping the adoption. So I think we're going to find out a lot from 2024. It's going to be a year to learn from, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Exciting times for sure.
A year to learn from. I love it. We've got people, process, and technology as a framework to keep in our minds. And then, dare I say, Rabie, adopting and even creating a culture of AI within companies. That's a fascinating point. There's a lot to unpack there. Perhaps we'll do this again in a couple months, and even take stock of what's happened in Q1. But for now, I give you, gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. Deepak, thank you. Rabie, thank you again. And we'll provide links to both gentlemen's LinkedIn profiles, their companies, etc., as we put, below of this video. And please look out for continuing Space Talks with Z throughout the rest of 2024. And let's make it a great and productive year. Take care.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.